Jordan Love gets paid. The Packers signed Jordan Love to a 4-year, $220 million deal with $160.3 million guaranteed and a $75 million signing bonus. He also has $100.8 million guaranteed at signing. We see quarterbacks cashing in the bag all the time, and this is what Jordan Love's done. We anticipated it happening. I can argue that he is well-deserved of that. What do you think? Do you think this is the right move by Green Bay?
I actually do think this is the right move by Green Bay. We could have a discussion about the absurdity of quarterback pay, the absurdity of every next person up having to go to the top of the charts. Me and you have talked about that many times. We'll probably talk about that at some point in this episode. That's absurd. I don't know why we can't treat it like a normal market. Hey, you're probably about the sixth best. You're going to get paid about the sixth best. Regardless, that's a topic for another day. We can talk till we're blue in the face. Nothing's changing there. We knew a contract was probably imminent regarding Jordan Love because he was running out of time. I know he wanted to get re-signed before this season because he didn't want to obviously get injured or play bad. I know Green Bay wanted to sign him because if he goes out there and plays fantastic, then it was going to cost them more money down the line. The bottom line for me is, if you watch the last half of the 2023 season, Jordan Love looks like one of the most promising quarterbacks in the NFL. And it's such a crazy ride because it really started rocky. Like, none of us knew what to expect. We thought maybe he would be solid. And it started out, bumpy and even bad at times. And there was a point close to midway in the season where it looked like Jordan Love might be one and done in Green Bay. They missed. Hey, you can't do it. You can't go from Favre to Rodgers to another one. That's okay. Go get another guy. And then magically he turned it on. Matt LaFleur literally said he took the training wheels off. He stopped trying to manage him and said, no, just go run the offense. It's yours. Take control. And he did. And you hear this from a lot of people, but it's true. He looked like Aaron Rodgers. A lot of plays out there. The last 8 games of the regular season, 18 touchdowns, 1 interception. Obviously, the playoff game against Dallas where he went and lit them up. And then the playoff game against San Francisco, he played really, really well. Everyone remembers that last interception, which was obviously boneheaded, but he'd never been in that situation before, and he had played good up until that point. You would take Jordan Love over a lot of starting quarterbacks in the league right now, and with Matt LaFleur, it should only get better. I think this was a good move to jump ahead of it because the talent is there.
Yeah, LaFleur went over to the genie and said, my third and final wish, I want 3 more wishes, so give me that next quarterback, and it was granted to him. You mentioned taking Jordan Love over a lot of quarterbacks in the league, and that brings me to a guy I do want to talk about briefly here. We don't have it in the script today, but I'm just throwing this in because the way quarterback markets work so far is they just leapfrog, right? So one gets paid, the next gets paid more, the next gets paid more. We'll talk about another one here in a second who got paid more. The one I'm talking about is yet to be paid, Dak Prescott, right? Me personally, the upside of Jordan Love makes me want Jordan Love more than Dak.
Yes.
But here's the problem. We know Dak's going to get paid more. Like, he's just going to get a bigger contract, a bigger, better contract, even than Tua, who we'll talk about in a second, because that's just how this quarterback market's working right now. And it's bleeding over to the receiver market because you have Justin Jefferson who got paid. Now CeeDee Lamb wants that kind of money, and he doesn't deserve it. What this is just, it's becoming like fake money in a way. It's just, same thing with like cap space and everything. It's all just made up and it's all bids. There's no limits on anything. And now you have these guys that are really, honestly, maybe even outside the top 8 quarterbacks getting paid like, number 1, number 2 in the entire league. So Dak's going to come get money like he's the 3rd best quarterback in the league. And we know for a fact that that's not true. So what's going to come to a head? Like, how is this going to shake out in the end? Is this ever going to be fixed, or are we just going to keep writing blank checks to these quarterbacks no matter how good they really are on paper statistically and what they do for their team? Because Jordan Love has done more for the Packers last year than Dak did for the Cowboys.
100%. Now, you could say, well, Dak Prescott has proven it earlier in his career. He's a good quarterback. Okay, yeah, but even take the age part away from it, say they were the same age, I would still want Jordan Love over Dak Prescott just because he plays better. Like,
he does.
He has more upside. His physical ability is better.
Pocket awareness is better.
Yeah, he literally looks like Aaron Rodgers out there. And Dak, obviously, had his moments. I think Dak was his best when he was a little bit younger and more mobile.
Before the injury, maybe. And maybe, I don't know how much that plays into it. A lot of people saying Dak chokes in the playoffs is a fake narrative. Maybe it is to a degree, but it's also true that he does choke in some playoff games. Not all on him, obviously, and we've talked about that. But what stops this quarterback market thing? I would think the thing that would stop it would be a team finally putting their foot down and saying, no, sorry, we're not doing it. We're not paying you more than Patrick Mahomes. But here's the thing. One, Minnesota did that. Because me and you talk about that, like we want a team to do that. Minnesota did that to Kirk Cousins. They said, no, we're not paying you more than that. And he left and got paid by Atlanta. So another team did it. The same would apply to Dak Prescott, I think. If Dallas, which if I was Dallas, I would not pay Dak Prescott a giant contract. I just wouldn't. Maybe I'm wrong. Sorry. I could not do it at this point. I would rather go get someone from the draft and roll the dice on him. So I would say, no, Dak, we're not paying you. But the problem is that doesn't stop it because one of these teams, desperate for a quarterback in free agency, is going to go and pay him. So I don't know how this stops. It's just like the real estate market, right? Like during the pandemic, we were in a seller's market. The sellers could just demand what they wanted for their house. People were paying well over asking. And, if somebody didn't make a good offer, they would move to the next. And well, that's how it is in the quarterback world, right? Now, since then, interest rates have gone back up, and now they've kind of settled up a little bit, and it's more balanced out to an even, close to even buyer-seller market. Something like that has to happen. So how does that happen in the quarterback world? You have to increase the number of good quarterbacks in the league. That's it. That's the only way you can do it. You have to have a team. Yeah. You have to have a team, or all 32 teams have enough quarterbacks that are startable and good enough for them not to go waste the extra money on a quote-unquote top-tier quarterback, which you could argue Dak's not even one of those. Mm-hmm. But that's what's going to happen. And until that happens, we're going to keep seeing these blank checks just being handed to the quarterbacks and say, hey, we got to have you because without you, we are doomed.
And that's a great point. It's easy to say, no, we don't need you. We're not going to pay that when we have a quarterback. But if you're a team like, I know they have Bryce Young, but just say Carolina, like, come on. Like, if Carolina could get Dak Prescott or they could get Jordan Love or Baker Mayfield, one of these teams, they would like that. That would be a big upgrade on their team. Tennessee, not knowing what's going to happen with Will Levis. These teams that are desperate and in a bad situation, when you don't have one, you become more desperate. However, I think that makes your organization bad because we've seen you can win games, you can make playoff runs with an average quarterback. You're not going to win a Super Bowl. Obviously, you got to have a really good quarterback to win a Super Bowl, I think. But then you look at what San Francisco's done with Brock Purdy. Obviously, he's very good, but it's that trade-off. We're going to see what he gets paid probably sometime this season. It's going to be kind of interesting to see, but I kind of agree with you. As long as there's a limited amount of quarterbacks that can really control a franchise and take you to the future, then we're going to just see this happen over and over again. Because if you believe that guy can win you Super Bowls, then you will write him a blank check because he's worth it. Before we move on to the next topic, last question for you. What do you think expectations should be given this contract for Jordan Love this year? Do you think it's another playoff run? Like if he matched last year NFL division or NFC divisional round and out, you think they'd be happy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If that can happen again. But the NFC's changed a little bit, right? The face of the NFC is not like it was last year. Yeah. I think the NFC's gotten better through this offseason, so there's that to battle. But I don't think it's out of the realm of expectation to ask Jordan Love to get them back to the divisional or the playoff, even a wild card. I would be even happy with that and say, hey, that was money well spent because without him, we know that we wouldn't be here in the first place.
Yeah, and I think you also, even more so, obviously, I think Green Bay is good enough to make the playoffs and probably win a playoff game, and we'll talk about them at some point through our preseason predictions. I believe you want to see a full season of what the last 8 games of 2023 were. It's like, let's not go through rough patches. Let's look like a top-tier quarterback for 17 games.